Before I started today's video, I wanted to say that the title of today's video is probably my hottest take in the NBA right now. You're not supposed to agree with this take. That is why it's called a hot take, and probably a lot of you guys, unfortunately, knowing the NBA community and being a part of it for a while, I know that some of you just clicked on this video simply to dislike it because you disagree. But make sure you guys hear me out. I did put a lot of work into planning this video. I have a lot of reasons and evidence to back up my opinion on this take, so make sure you watch the video fully and hear me out before you dislike the video. So yes, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I think Zion Williamson will win the 2022 NBA MVP. I do think a lot of us can agree on the fact that Zion is probably going to win an MVP in his career at some point, and I think it is going to come as soon as this season, with not only some of the improvements that I think are going to happen to his game and his extremely underrated 2020 and 2021 season, but also the situation around him. In today's video, I'm going to be going in depth on that and backing up why I think this is legitimately possible for Zion to win MVP this upcoming season. If you guys watch the channel, you know I'm really high on Zion, and I'm coming out with another hot take today saying that I think he will win MVP this upcoming season. So let's get into why I think this. The first thing I want to talk about here is Zion's really underrated 2020 and 2021 season, where honestly I think he could have got MVP consideration if his team was in the playoff hunt. And for some reason, when Zion came into the league, obviously he had tons of hype, but ever since then and ever since he broke out last year, for some reason he really hasn't been getting enough attention for what he's doing in the NBA. And honestly, you can make an extremely strong case that right now Zion is already a top 15 player in the entire NBA overall, and also you can make another very strong case that he's already a top 5 scorer in the NBA right now. I mean, his sheer dominance at the rim is really something we haven't seen in the NBA ever since LeBron's scoring prime with the Miami Heat in the early 2010s, and also Shaq with the Lakers back in the early 2000s when he was also dominating obviously a ton in the paint. Zion's scoring ability near the rim is just this good. He can create pretty much any shot he wants because it doesn't matter if he's facing a double, triple, or quadruple team at the rim, he will find a way to score at the rim. I watched the Pelicans play a lot this season, and seeing Zion go up against multiple guys at the rim and still finding a way to finish, plus tons of contact down low, is just simply amazing. His scoring ability was extremely good and underrated last season, and like I said, we need to legitimately start considering Zion as a top 5 scorer in the NBA already right now. When we look at some stats from last year, ranking 8th in the league already in points per game with 27 points per game last season, 7th in the NBA in points per 75, getting limited touches and minutes for some of this compared to some of the other superstar players in the league right now. So 7th in points per 75 with 29.2, and we look at his efficiency, insane efficiency here from Zion for a guy with his playstyle. I mean, 61% from the field, which is absolutely insane considering, like I mentioned, all of the double teams and triple teams he's facing at the rim. This was 8th in the NBA last year, and also a 65% true shooting percentage, almost 65%, which also was 14th in the NBA, and results in about a plus 7.6 relative true shooting, which is basically saying that is 7.6% above the average true shooting in the NBA right now. And this combination of volume scoring and efficiency from Zion is simply insane. We haven't seen anyone in the NBA be top 8 in points per game and field goal percentage ever since Anthony Davis in 2015 and LeBron multiple years when he was with the Miami Heat. And even both of these guys, when they did this, weren't even close to having field goal percentages at 61% like Zion. The only time that we've seen another player in the league in the recent history do this is a guy like Shaq, who multiple times averaged almost 30 points per game with almost 60% shooting. But you get the point. When Zion is doing scoring the ball in the paint, it's simply insane right now, and last year he had the highest points per game in NBA history on 60+% shooting from the field. Keep in mind he's also doing this at 20 years old. And when we look at playmaking for Zion, for his position at the power forward position, he is a very good and extremely underrated playmaker. I mean, you really do have to watch him play to see his full playmaking impact. There were times this season where he literally ran his team's offense, played the point guard position, and when he was here, his full playmaking ability was really shown. And last year, averaging about 4 assists per game and a box creation of about 5.1, which is how many open shots you create for teammates per game. Also a decent screener with about 2 screen assists per game. These stats right here are really just a glimpse of how good Zion's playmaking ability is. I mean, you do really have to watch him play to see his full playmaking ability, and even these stats alone are very good for his position at the power power forward position, but he's definitely improving his passing ability, his court vision. He can make some very good passes when driving to the rim, finding open teammates even in the post as well, and overall when he drives to the rim, creating sometimes triple and quadruple teams. This is just insane gravity that really creates advantages for his team when, just because of his scoring ability driving to the rim, he's creating advantages for his team, getting guys open and finding them on the perimeter as well. So Zion's overall scoring ability is simply historic already, along with his playmaking ability. Really the only doubt I have for him is defense right now, but even with some proper development, putting him in a proper situation, Zion could be a decent defender. He's already a pretty good defender in the post with his strength, and a pretty good interior defender at times, can have some nice blocks, a decent rim protector if he's put in the right position. But just to put it into perspective, just how good Zion's season last year was, factor this in as I continue with the video here. He legitimately had an MVP caliber season last year and no one's talking about it. The second main thing, and really the last thing I want to talk about here, is the Pelicans situation and how they actually had a really underrated offseason and actually accomplished really their biggest goal, which is to surround Zion with some better spacing. We know that last year the Pelicans pretty much had horrible spacing, ranking in the bottom 5 in the league in both 3-point percentage and 3-point attempts per game. And when you have guys like Steven Adams on your team, who is a traditional big man who obviously can't stretch the floor and shoot the 3 and has to be in the paint, this provided a lot of problems for Zion when he was driving into the paint and the paint was clogged. And for those of you that are some more casual NBA fans and don't really understand what spacing is, it's basically the idea of how you don't really need to be guarded when you're on the perimeter if you're not a good 3-point shooter. So all of a sudden defenders can help more and try to guard the paint more, and especially when you have a guy like Steven Adams who's actually sitting there in the paint, obviously his defender's going to be right there and able to help on Zion and create double teams and triple teams. And with how bad of a 3-point shooting team the Pelicans were last year, they had horrible spacing. So now that I've kind of gotten that out of the way and explained really what that is specifically, I now want to explain to you guys that the Pelicans spacing actually got a lot better this offseason. Their 3-point shooting is way better now as a team, and I think their spacing is going to be a lot better this season and create a lot more space for Zion. A lot of people see that the Pelicans lost Lonzo Ball pretty much for nothing this season. In the offseason, he signs with the Chicago Bulls, and considered right away that this is a loss of an offseason for the New Orleans Pelicans. And maybe overall as a team, it is. It all depends on the way you look at it. But spacing wise, look at how much this team has improved. They lost Lonzo, I know, who is a good 3-point shooter now, but we look at that Jonas Valanciunas trade, sending Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. Steven Adams probably their biggest paint clogger on the team, and Eric Bledsoe pretty much a horrible 3-point shooter. Last year he did shoot 34% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, but these stats are inflated because he's left open a lot of the time when it comes to 3-point shooting, because teams know he can't knock it down consistently, and this is still a below average percentage. So they're getting rid of both of those guys, adding Valanciunas, who still mostly clogs up the paint because he is a traditional big man, but still trying to add a 3-point shot, shooting 37% from 3 on only 1 attempt per game. But if he could try to take that to the next level this season, get it up to maybe 3 or 4 attempts from 3 per game, try to stretch the floor a little bit more, this could be a valuable floor spacer for the Pelicans. Biggest part of this trade was how they got rid of basically their 2 biggest paint cloggers, and then also signing a guy like Devontae Graham. I think this is a really underrated signing here. Graham is completely known for his 3-point shooting. Last year shooting 37% from 3 on almost 9 attempts per game, which is very high volume. You cannot leave this guy open from 3. He's a very effective floor spacer for this team, and he's really going to add a lot of value for Zion, specifically creating some space for him by being able to play on the perimeter and have that 3-point threat. And also the Pelicans this offseason drafted Trey Murphy in the NBA draft, and I know these are college stats, but this dude in college last season shot 43% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. And I know this is college 3-point shooting, which is a lot different, but this type of percentage is going to carry it over to the NBA for sure. Teams are going to know that when he's on the floor, he is a threat from 3, and again, this is going to create space for Zion. Not to mention that also consistent 3-point shooters, a guy like Najee Marshall, who's probably going to get more playing time for this team this season, a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's continuing to improve that 3-point shot. When he's playing off ball, he can be a floor floor spacer for this team and get more minutes for them this season. And obviously Brandon Ingram, who's going to be the second option scoring-wise on this team and is probably one of the best pure scorers in the game right now. But again, when he's playing with Zion and playing off ball, he can also be a threat from three and will be able to space the floor. Overall, we're looking at a pretty good spacing team for this Pelicans team next season, and if this space is created for Zion on the floor, imagine how much more he's going to dominate with all of this space, considering that with bad spacing, actually horrendous spacing, last year he still put up historic scoring numbers in the paint. So not only is he going to get this way better spacing team, but he also now has a younger head coach in Willie Green, 40 years old. He's going to come in and really realize that Zion is pretty much his only team's hope offensively, and we have to realize that last year, mostly because of like injury concerns, Zion did not get as many minutes as some of the superstar players in the NBA do. He only averaged about 33 minutes per game last season, which is 35th in the NBA, and only about 17 field goal attempts per game, which is 26th in the NBA. But now that we know that Zion has enough endurance to play a full season, and last year playing 61 out of the 72 games, and for the most part definitely staying out of serious injury trouble, which was a big concern for Zion, I definitely think we're going to be seeing Zion get significantly more minutes this season compared to what he got last season, and a few more shot attempts, really having the offense run particularly through him and get him up to about 20 field goal attempts per game. With a guy like Willie Green coming in and having to try to get this franchise into the playoffs for the first time ever since Anthony Davis left the team, he's really going to have to run their offense through Zion, and I think he's going to recognize this, come and realize that Zion has more endurance now and is more matured at the NBA level and can get more minutes and more shots per game. So this, combined with the fact that Zion's going to have much better spacing on this team, combined with the fact that he's already putting up historic scoring numbers last season, and the fact that he's also going to improve as a player. Keep in mind, this guy's only 20 years old and is pretty much going to be improving every year. I pretty much expect Zion, with good spacing, more shot attempts, and more minutes, to average almost around 35 points per game this season. I know this sounds insane, but when you do the math with the extra minutes, the field goal attempts, and considering he has better spacing, I truly think that this is Zion's potential this season, and this is absolutely MVP type numbers. Not to mention that he's proven that he can stay healthy throughout an entire season, is probably going to play a fully healthy season in my opinion. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to turn out, and you kind of do need a fully healthy season to win the MVP award. We've seen that in the past a lot, but considering this happens, I can definitely see him being the guy that can win the MVP this season. And I also do think, as I said in my Western Conference standings predictions video, that the New Orleans Pelicans will squeak into the playoffs. And if they do miss the playoffs, we know that the criteria for the MVP award is very weird, and if you do miss the playoffs, you're probably not going to win the MVP award, and actually you're pretty much guaranteed to not win the MVP award. But I do think the Pelicans will make the playoffs this season with Zion's incredible season, their new head coach coming in, and much better spacing. And because of this, I think he will win that MVP award. So to conclude today's video, I know I've talked about a lot, but Zion's already historic scoring abilities, combined with the fact he's going to have better spacing, a new head coach coming in, probably getting more of an opportunity with minutes and shot attempts, combined with already his elite playmaking ability at his position, and how he's probably going to improve in many aspects of the game this season, and how the Pelicans will make the playoffs, and I think he will stay fully healthy. All of these reasons is why I think Zion Williamson will win the 2022 MVP. You heard it here first.